Hello everyone, welcome back to Rose Gold Library, and I'm super excited that you're here today. So, I'm going to be talking about The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen and illustrated by Charles Sandori. And this is also one of my favorite dorms, Activity Now, from the hit game Disney's Twisted Wonderland. And I feel like it is really important to note that I've always been a fan of The Little Mermaid and Ursula. So it's been kind of nice, like, rereading this as a kid, because when I was a kid, I loved The Little Mermaid so much that my parents got me a bootleg DVD set that we found someone was selling on the corner. We were like, oh, it's The Little Mermaid. Yes and no. It was not Disney's The Little Mermaid. It was Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid. So I was very confused when they started mentioning death and you turn into sea foam when I was a little kid, and I was so confused and then got scared when Ariel, who wasn't Ariel at the same time, just jumped the ship and all her sisters were like, kill the man. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna. And I was so confused. So, a little bit of that aside. The Little Mermaid, as an adult reading this, I was really surprised, like, oh, I have not thought about this in a long time. Let me read the original source. And knowing that Hans Christian Andersen, oh boy, it hurt. So a little bit of a summary is the young mermaid princess falls in love with a human prince. Their mermaid trades her voice for legs by a sea witch, and must makes the prince fall in love with her in 3 days, or else she turns into sea foam. She basically dies. The mermaid goes back to the surface and finds the prince. And unfortunately, the prince mistakes him being saved by another princess. Basically, you know, the plot of the Disney's Little Mermaid. But this is where it gets different, where the Little Mermaid sisters, they all cut off their beautiful long locks of hair and traded them for the sea witch for like a dagger. And then, like, on the wedding night of the prince and, you know, the new princess, the Little Mermaid is told by her sisters, oh, kill the prince and you're able to return back as a mermaid. She decided, no, I'm not gonna do that, and then just jumps off into the sea, like, to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go off to the sea, turn into sea foam, technically, because mermaids don't really have a soul. And because of that, the universe was like, oh, okay, you do have a soul. You sacrificed yourself rather than, you know, killing the prince. And so she goes off to heaven in the end. And with her spirit, she kisses, the last words actually are, she kissed the bride's forehead and fanned the prince, unseen by either of them, and they mounted together with the other daughters of the air, the rosy cloud that was sailing through the atmosphere. So she was like, okay, I hope you two have a happy life, bye. And it was reading this as an adult, or not really, I'm not really an adult, I'm a baby adult. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, to be honest. I'm literally reading fairy tales because I'm obsessed with a Disney game. I don't know how to tell y'all that. But yes, so I just said the last words of the book, but let me tell you about the first words. The first words in this story is, far out at sea, the waters is as blue as the prettiest cornflowers and as clear as the purest crystal. Well, that is one way to start off. Just thinking about, oh, Yeah, instead of saying like the bluest of oceans. That would be ridiculous to talk about an ocean as blue ocean because of course it's blue, well technically clear. I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite quotes, and it was, I think, yeah, this was also the one where I believe, if correct me if I'm wrong, was also in the live action Little Mermaid remake, was only mermaids have no tears, and therefore suffer all the more. And I was like, I gotta put this down because it's in the Little Mermaid live action, which I will admit I did enjoy. Some stuff kind of got lost on me, but you know what, I did enjoy it, and that's all that matters in terms of I'm not gonna critique it as a movie right now, but it was like, oh, did I enjoy it? Yes, then it gets a pass. And another pun, one of my favorites, is it was the little birds that her grandmother called fish, or else her young listeners would not have understood her, for they had never seen birds. As a person who loves birds, in trying to describe a bird to a person who's never seen a bird, like, you have to be like, yeah, what is the closest thing that you can compare a bird if you're constantly living underwater? And I was like, a seagull, well, you only see it like once or twice. So you're like, I don't know. Oh, by the way, before I forget, this is by Jelly Bean Press. So it is an older edition from 1993. I'm so sorry for people who were born in the 90s to hear that this is an older edition. I say this as I have cousins who were shocked when I said, yeah, this is an older edition from the 90s. They looked at me like I said heresy. My thoughts were, oh, this is way darker. I understand why little old me was terrified. I had that bootleg DVD that my parents gave me, thinking it was the Little Mermaid from Disney, not the Little Mermaid from Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid. But would I recommend this? Yes, it's a classic for a reason. And it is very nice to see how certain things get adapted and certain things get lost, or, you know, or choosing not to be adapted. And as a person who is currently going on this little journey of throughout the Disney movies and seeing what they were originally adapted from, like books wise, I want to see how what is being picked and chosen, or what's get left over in storyboards. So that's it. For some reason, this took me a lot of days to read. It took me a couple of while, 16 days, because I was only reading like once or twice. I read a page or two and then completely forgot about it, and then just read it all at once. It's also, even though it's not like obviously a heavy book, you have to stop and think about like, oh, these are a lot of words, and for us it's a fairy tale, but probably back then it would be like a middle grade book. I don't really know. I will be honest, I wasn't sure if this was meant for like as a children's tale or as a tale that just so happens to be for children, but it's actually like very darker, kind of like how some books back then were just marketed differently or never being seen again. But that's all. What book should I read? What Disney characters should I go deep dive into? And I'll say this, as my rating, it's arbitrary, remember. But I decided to have 4 tiers, because, yeah, 4 out of 5, essentially, 4 tiers, that are mermaid tiers, because it is a story that I do feel like it's constantly being part of my life, and I'll miss it dearly if I ever forget it. Well, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below. I love seeing everyone's comments. It brings very much joy to my heart. And don't forget to look at my other social media. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you once again. Bye-bye.